and I noticed that it was actually a time where I was offering the app for free on accident. Coming up with the different classes and ships, actually more clearly on this next page. So after my last video, there were some people who reached out and were curious about how I had created my game that I released on the App Store. It is a Apple Watch game, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you my revenue as well as the code base itself, so that you can kind of see what it took to actually build this. This was a few years ago, and it was a little bit messy because I had just started. This was like maybe a year after I'd started a new job, so new engineering job, so it was taking up a lot of my time. So take that with a grain of salt. It's very messy code base, so this is kind of just for fun, as well as just people may be curious about profitability of a Apple Watch application, as well as just like seeing how someone decided to make a production watch game. It was a fun project. Anyway, let's actually start with the what it made. First of all, numbers can seem high, but there was one gap in time where I had like over 1,000 downloads, and I noticed that it was actually a time where I was offering the app for free on accident. So the profits here never came through. I was like, what is going on? So yeah, unfortunately that's what happened there. But if we like zoom out, it's a $3 game. It's pretty expensive. I'll kind of explain why I priced it where I did. But I've like floated it around like $3 to $4. I think at one point it was a little bit higher. If I look at the lifetime earnings, it's just hit $1,000. That's another reason why I decided to do a video, because it's a little milestone for it. So one of the things here is that obviously it made a lot on its launch day. I was just kind of like, pushing it on Instagram, pushing it on other platforms, and, just talking about it. I think I did an email blast on someone's email list that they had that was, geared toward people interested in like indie games, things like that. So I had a nice opening day, opening 48 hours or whatever, and made around almost $200 in profit, starting from that first day, and then kind of slowly started trickling downward. Some days did better than others, but to put this in perspective, the game has made $1,000. This is hilarious. It's made $1,000, but that's over the span of like 2 years. Because I launched it at the end of 2021. Wait-ish. No, I launched it early 2022. So it's been a few years, and it's kind of brought in like a steady like few dollars a week or something like that. So it's just fun to see that there. Lifetime units, the amount of units that I've sold on this have been 2006 looks like. So yeah, that is it. I have this is the only game I've been able to publish, but I have another game coming out soon, Nebula Fighters, so I hope to get those get that coming through. It's sort of a spiritual successor, as well as a more detailed like iPhone version of the game, plus all of the extra features I wanted to build. But anyway, let's get into the game itself and like how it was built. This part was pretty fun. Let me see if I can adjust this. This is the title screen here. Actually, let me just run the game. What I did is I created a Mac version of this game so that it would be easier to test, because testing on the watch, as you can imagine, is pretty difficult. So if I run it here and I have a PlayStation controller connected, it runs pretty fast. We get the start menu. screen, and yeah, I have a little menu here. It's pretty well adapted for a Mac OS version of this, as well as I started adjusting this so that it would work on tvOS, but it's not doing it yet. All the settings and everything, changing the difficulty, all that. It's pretty awesome. So if I were to, there's a quick start just to like go into the game and start playing. You imagine you're like on your watch. On your watch, you're just kind of like, there's only taps. And by the way, I started this at a time where you could only do taps and swipes, but there wasn't like very specific areas you could like tap on. Yeah, but it's probably a lot easier nowadays to actually make an Apple Watch game. It's kind of funny. Quick start here, we'll just do a random, pick a random ship for you. I actually want to show the ship selection mode, so I'm going to die on purpose here. So quick play will randomly select a star system and a ship for you if you have multiple ships. The game is about collecting ships and beating different star systems to getting achievements and stuff like that. So this is the ship selection menu, and I classify the ships by classes. And so there's the C class ships. There are let me rerun this. Unless I just haven't actually captured. Actually, maybe I just haven't captured any higher class ships on this one. But these are all the different types of ships for C class. There's a B class, there's a class, and there's S class. And there's even one class above that. I got really into it. Continue. There we go. So if I just go to the red system, for example, I can move side to side. Let's see, I can use the triggers to, this is why like making a Mac OS version was so great, so that I could test things out really easily. What is the super? What's the super on here? As you can see, you build up a super meter gauge there on the left side. And then once you're done with the stage, I kind of did a Star Fox inspired, like choose your own like path kind of deal here, all the way until you get to the boss. Certain stages will get you certain types of ships. You have higher chances of getting certain types of ships when you go to certain stages, but yeah, so if I hit select and confirm, I can take the lower route here. And then also, as you can see in the background, the planet is showing up. Score system works here. I just gotta remember how to do super. Is it one of these? No. It's been such a long time since I've used the debug mode. This game is actually really challenging on the watch, and I did that on purpose. And I think not everyone liked that about the game. Maybe it was just a little bit too difficult for a Apple Watch game. I wonder if I do. It looks like I do have. Okay, I do have other ships. So like this is some B class ships I've gotten. This is an A class ship I've gotten. Looks like I don't have a S class on this version here. But yeah, that is essentially the game itself. I had a lot of fun building this thing. There's a boss fight after each, once you get to the end of each star system. Anyway, so now what we can do is start diving into the project itself. As you can see, the project is pretty massive. This took me about 6 months of like real intense work to like actually get done. And in retrospective, it's a lot. So coming from the title screen, I have actually starting from the very, very beginning, the way this project is sort of broken down. I have some documentation up here, some points of interest, and I decided to put this together because I was considering having more people work on the project because it was just like a lot back then. So I ended up really seriously making some documentation for how to navigate this thing. I'm trying to reuse some of the code for future projects, but for the most part, it's going to be deemed legacy. I even created this cool like architectural map here that kind of showcased. I used this for like an interview or two back then, but it basically showcases how the app is structured. What are some of the main things that you can do with the swipes and whatnot, and a lot of the major classes that I created. And I use a lot of inheritance in here as well, so which can get pretty messy. The next thing that's kind of interesting is the assets folder, where all the different art assets are. It took me a long time. I actually sat down and drew every last pixel in this project. My friend had actually done some of the art for me, like the title art, and I paid him for that. But every single other piece of this, like every last piece, animations here, you would see some of the S-Class ships. I'll show you. As you can see, there's so many, over 100 and some odd ships I created specifically for this game. Let's see, here we go. S-Class animation. So like this is an S-Class ship. If you look at the asset there, and I just hold the down button, you would see all the animations associated with it. And yeah, I did that for a lot of different ships. Some ships are more unique than others, as you can see. But that's what made this really fun, is creating these S-Class ships that are a little bit more rare to get. Unless you play on hard mode, you're guaranteed. When you're playing on hard mode, you're guaranteed every time you beat a star system to get them. If you're able to beat a star system on hard mode, you can earn these H-class ships that I call them. I was running out of stuff. I should have just called it SS class, right? But I have these even more detailed ships. But anyway, there's enemies in here. There's all kinds of stuff. So you'll notice that with these files, there's like two different types of setups here. For each like core view, there's like two major files, and you would know this if you're used to using SpriteKit. So in SpriteKit, you would have both a SKS file, which is your file that you can kind of like lay out your UI visually and put things in place. You can even kind of set up some pre-animation. So if I hit animate here, nothing happens. Let me get out the layout. Some of these areas you'll notice there will be some actual animations, like here. I did choose to do a lot more animations programmatically, just because it's a little bit easier to control using code. But yeah, so this is the SKS file for the main menu. But if we go to the code, see, this is the file that's paired with that view file. And so I created, a button for the quick start menu. I was going to do a shop where you could buy stuff, you could buy ships and stuff, but I left that out. Difficulty, holding reference to difficulty and all that. There's a lot here. So when the scene loads, this is where I end up, preparing any kind of warning messages or error messages that need to be displayed. And then updating the user's location. Like I may need to change the camera to focus on one of these settings here. So like the camera would actually move over to the thing that you're selecting in the menu. So as you can see here, even by the bounding box around it, that this white box here, you may or may not be able to see it, but it's basically the camera. It represents the camera on the Apple Watch. So there's a lot here. Switching colors, setting the difficulty. So I had like a highlighter. If you go back in this video when I was like going over the like menu, like the difficulty menu, you notice I'll have these like little bars that kind of like sort of show you what you've selected in the settings menu in terms of difficulty. This is basically that. It's like a switch statement here that handles all of that. Taps. So based on which option you have selected or which option the camera was last on and you actually tap on the screen, that's actually what I'm going to present next. So you see me prepare the scene, the level scene, which we can just kind of go right into that. And the level scene is complicated. There's we have a ship, we have stars that are moving in the background. We have the energy list, energy array. These are the colors. So the game is based off of when you see an enemy ship or a meteorite, it's going to be glowing one of these 4 colors. And so in order to destroy that thing, you're going to have to switch to the corresponding color to shoot your gun in that color. And then, you'll be able to destroy that enemy ship or whatever. Here's how I manage the score text. I'm trying to update, Game Center as well, for leaderboards. If there's a boss on the screen, an array of beams that you're shooting and the enemy shooting, the ship, oh my gosh, the way that the ship is like put together, I probably overcomplicated this pretty well, but this is the ship class. In the ship class here, we have a sprite node, and the way that sprite kit works is everything is basically like a node. Everything inherits from node that you use, like these particle emitters, ships that you want to be on the screen, or anything that you want to be on the screen is probably going to be a sprite node. And all that happens with it, it's kind of like a UI view, and you can add things as a child to it. Like as you can see here, like I'm adding these children. We look at building a ship. We could just look at that. So when we're building a ship, I take this ship sprite node here that I made. I'm passing through the image name because you may have selected a certain ship that has an image name, like in the asset folder. And then afterward, what I do is I create these particle emitters that are going to show up on all of the exhausts on the ship. So it's probably going to be easier if I just run this on the Apple Watch simulator. That'll probably take forever, but that's fine. So as you can see, I add them as children to the ship, and they all have different scales. They all have all these different locations that I end up putting them on the ship. So some ships maybe only have one exhaust, and so I'll put them on this XY coordinate of that ship, that specific ship. And then, there's a lot that went into that went into this. At the time of creating an instance of a ship, as you can see, these are the parameters that I required, which are, if I'll just show you an example here. If I were to type in ship, the ship's name is blah. The type of exhaust, the color of the exhaust, like the flames coming out of the back. Oh, here we go, it's running. But I'll finish this real quick. So the color of the exhaust, then the ship type. There's 3 different major ship types, but there's also these special ships, but explorer, fighter, and a hauler ship. So if it was a fighter ship, and then maybe it's a S-ring ship, and these are all the different S-ring ships that are out there. So yeah, it's crazy. That's what it takes to actually create an instance of a ship with all of this. So it's running right now in a simulator. Let me close the macOS version. And then let's see. Let's try to make this nice and big. Cool, so it's easier to see. This is actually running on the watch simulator now, so if I tap this here, it'll be easier for me to navigate the... Yeah, there we go. So I can go to adventures there. And then select a ship. There's only one ship available here, but this is what I'm talking about with the anatomy of like a ship. This ship only has one exhaust. Let's try to find that here. So that is a fighter ship, but it's not an A-class ship. It's not a B-class ship, but it is a C-class ship. So it only has one exhaust. Let's see here. Yeah, and so this is the positioning. You'll see there's a Z positioning, making sure that the exhaust is on top of the ship. So I had to I put it a couple layers above where the ship is. The ship itself is probably on Z-axis 0 or 1 or something like that. So putting it on layer 5 means that in space, it's going to be above. Then the Y positioning, it's like where it's going to be positioned. It's not going to be in the center, but if you notice, it's like kind of lower on the ship. And then the scale, I decide how big the exhaust is going to be. And then once all that's done, it's kind of all fair game. I then make sure to set the size of the ship. Typically, the size of the ship when playing throughout the game, it's going to be around 40 pixels worth of a width and 40 pixels worth of a height. And then there's this invisible node that I associate the ship with, and so I add the ship as a child of that sprite node, and then it's a SK node, and then the exhaust, I set that as I add that as a child of the ship itself. So why do I add the ship as a node, like as a child of a node? Well, there's this invisible node that I may want to move around all over the place. And so I kind of keep that separate from the ship. Don't ask me why I decided to do that, I'm not sure. Nowadays I think the simpler the better, but sometimes I want a scaled down version of things. So these are some adjustments to the exhausts I may pick. And there's so much here that I wouldn't even have enough time to really go through this entire project. If we look at the exhausts and how I built them. So first off, they all have named references. These are basically the names. This is an enum, inherits from string. So you could think of these as literal strings. And then I have the ship types while we're here. there's a ship factory that I have for building up an array of ships, building up the supply of ships that you actually have, if you have any. And so, but before I get ahead of myself, in terms of how I built the exhausts, over on the side here, so many files. It's crazy. So many particle effects that I've created, but I have this exhaust folder here, and it shows all of the different particle effects I created for the different exhausts, because some ships have a red flame coming out of the back, some have an orange, blue, you know, there's so much there. Moving space on some areas, score screen, there's just so much, buttons. There is a lot. The universal map for in between stages that I showed earlier. So this is the map itself, and maybe I'll show it on screen here if I'm able to find it, but I know somewhere in my book here I had taken a lot of time to, actually right there, create this in my head and this concept and try to figure out how it would work. I used the whiteboard, blackboard up there. Had to create like a task list on how to get it done. Up here, there was a lot. I mean, I'd probably say that half of this book even is probably dedicated to sketches. Over half of this book, probably like 80%, is this little booklet that I have here. Is taken up by all these tasks and I want to complete in order to get this thing done. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Let's see if I can get the main menu here. So when selecting the star system, which I may or may not have in here, galaxy selection. Right, it doesn't show here. We would have to look at it from this perspective because it's all programmatically built here. Well, this was, let's see, there we go. This is basically how I ended up starting to create that. It took quite a bit. This is me coming up with the different classes and ships. Actually, more clearly on this next page. All the original concepts. Yeah, let me see here. So I divide some things into components, toggle switches, gameplay. Yeah, there's a lot here. The save system, probably that might be something good that I'll end this video on. So I was worried about being able to save the user's progress and do it in a really cheap way so that I wouldn't need to like pay for any services like Firebase or anything like that. So the user's save data doesn't actually save across their Apple Watch devices, but it does save on the Apple Watch. So basically, in order for me to achieve that, I just used basic storage. I just used a basic, really basic caching mechanism here. Directory. Yeah, I just used user defaults. So I used user defaults, and I used a series of strings. And I got really creative with it because I wanted the save system to be super lightweight. Because I mean, at the time that I started working on this, I was trying to make this work for pretty much all Apple Watches I possibly could. So this meant legacy watches like Series 3, Series 4, in order to make sure that I'm not worried about resources. I came up with this like super lightweight solution where I was parsing and reading these strings that were saved in user defaults to find out which ships were unlocked for the user. So breaking it down real quick, this will be the last thing. Universal ships here, I believe these are the S-Class ships. These are like the keys up here, right? Keys for different things, what star systems you've completed, and then these are actually this is like default strings here for the ships. So at default, like you see these zeros here, which are just showing that the user has not obtained a yellow C-class fighter ship, right? This is like super extreme. Like today, I would probably come up with a much easier way to do this, but I was just really determined and a little bit less experience when it came to game development for iOS. So this is kind of like all I could think of at the time. It works really well though. It's extremely smooth. So anyway, this entire RIS Nebula, I called it WN save system, is all based on the defaults up there and then adjusting those defaults based on the user defaults. So, for obtaining all of the C-class ships and stuff like that, I would actually use these keys in order to pull them out. I would do the same thing for scores, whether or not I had shown the welcome message before. B-class ships, A-class ships collection. Yeah, these are the collection parts here. And when I was debugging, I just had some print statements here. I don't have any fancy logging here. With my new game, I'm definitely considering that, as well as some basic analytics, so I can understand what some of the pain points are. I also expect maybe a little bit more downloads, hopefully, for the iPhone version versus this watch version. Yeah, there was a lot of work put into this. This is getting all the ships, all stars completed. Yeah, because I was actually tapping into Game Center and I actually created these achievements and everything like that for Game Center. So yeah, this is this. So there's obviously way more to this. We probably literally only scratched the surface of this project. I put a lot of work into this, and it was fun, and it taught me a lot. Yeah, I only made $1,000 off of this watch game, but it definitely enhanced my skills for my career as well. So if you have any questions on this, or maybe there's an area that you would want me to go in depth with, feel free to, leave a message on here in the comments. Keep an eye out for announcements for the next game, or just, check out my next video. But anyway, thanks for watching, and see you later.